Are you having trouble selling your home? Are you not getting good offers? Maybe you can't get your price. Are you in a position where you're upside down on the house and have limited equity? Or are you just looking for ways to maximize your profits? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, seller financing might be the solution for you. So what is seller financing? Seller financing is simply a scenario where you sell the house and you as the seller also act as the bank. Let's take a look at two quick examples to illustrate the difference. In a traditional mortgage scenario, the buyer buys the house in conjunction with a bank. The buyer pays the down payment, the bank pays the balance of the sales price. When you sell the house, title would move from the seller to the buyer, and then the buyer begins making monthly mortgage payments to the bank, and then the seller is out of the picture. In a seller financing scenario, the seller is actually wearing two hats. They are the seller, but they're also the bank. The buyer pays a down payment, but the loan actually comes from the seller. When the home is sold, the title would move to the buyer, just like a traditional sale, but the difference is the buyer would begin paying those mortgage payments to the seller, who's also their bank. Okay, so that's really the difference, is the seller takes on the role of the bank. So what is the Seller Finance Center? Well, we have developed the most complete set of educational resources to help individuals buy or sell their homes with seller financing. For buyers, there's times where they can't buy a home with traditional mortgage financing. Maybe they just can't get a mortgage. But for sellers, maybe you guys can't sell your home at your desired price, or you want to maximize the return of your home sale long term. And so we've built a curriculum and a set of tools that lets you do this on your own. And I will say, there are a lot of articles about seller financing. If you went and Googled seller financing right now, you would find tons of articles that explain the concept of seller financing. What they will not do is actually teach you how to do it, give you the tools, and hold your hand through the process, okay? So, we at the Seller Finance Center, we understand that your home is also a significant financial asset. It's probably the biggest purchase you have ever made in your life. And we want to make sure that you maximize the value of your home, both long-term and short-term, when you're ready to sell that home. So hi, my name is Jeff Grudin. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and my wife and our business. Personally, I started out life as an engineer. I went to the University of Virginia, became an electrical engineer, and a few years down the road, I went and got a business degree at Duke University. And then I spent the next 24 years in corporate America. I worked for Compaq Computer and then Hewlett Packard, retiring eventually as a VP general manager of one of their PC businesses. Along the way, I was also head of products for a number of categories, some of which were over $5 billion in sales. And this experience with a big company helped me with two things. One, it gave me a really good financial background to understand a concept like seller financing and understand the benefits of seller financing. But in addition, I got really good at taking complicated topics and making them simple. And that's hopefully what we'll be able to do with our curriculum that I want to talk to you about. After HP, I joined my wife, who had started a very successful real estate business, and we founded Loyalty Property Ventures, as well as a number of other real estate entities here in Houston. We've done about $13 million of real estate transactions to date. We've done flips, we've done rental properties, apartments, commercial, residential, and of course, as you might expect, any number of seller financing projects. In fact, the home we live in today, we actually acquired through seller financing. So this is a tactic that many investors use, but it's also a fantastic tactic for you as a seller to maximize the value of your home. So why do you use seller financing? Well, it can help you get your home sold now. It will differentiate your home from other homes in the market that don't have seller financing. And that's interesting because it expands your pool of buyers. Seller financing probably is not going to be interesting to somebody who can get a traditional mortgage from a bank. Just the terms they'll get from the bank will probably be better. But for somebody who cannot buy a house that way, and seller financing is maybe their only option, you can really significantly expand your pool of buyers because today only 63% of Americans own a home. That means 37% of Americans do not own a home, and a great number of those don't own a home because they can't get a mortgage, okay? This also might help you get your price. In general, seller financing buyers, they want good terms, but they don't care as much about a good price. So if perhaps a regular buyer maybe will give you $130,000, a seller financing buyer might give you $150,000. Now they may ask for some considerations on the down payment, on the interest rate of the loan, but if getting your price is your number one criteria, seller financing is a great avenue to push the sales price higher than you'll probably can get from a traditional buyer. The other thing about seller financing is you can close quickly because there isn't a lender. Lenders tend to create a lot of complexity in closings. They have a lot of fees and they have a lot of steps. You can avoid a lot of that if you offer seller financing. And a lot of people can do seller financing without realtors, which gives you another opportunity to save between 3 and 6% on the sale of your home. Okay? So seller financing is a really great option to get your house sold now and on the terms that you want. Now, what seller financing can also do, and this is really powerful, if you don't need the cash right now, you can let it work for you. And by the way, you will get a return better than the banks. And I will tell you, banks don't lend money unless they make money. So banks make money on interest. So if they loan somebody $150,000 for 30 years at 5% interest, trust me, they're going to make money on that interest that they receive. If you sell seller financing, you can probably charge 6 or 7% interest, or even higher in some cases, and you get that interest. So you can get a return higher than what any bank would get. So let's talk a little bit about creating wealth. And here's a 10-year example of how selling your house with seller financing can create wealth for you. So let's say you're trying to sell your house for $150,000. You sell it to a traditional buyer. Let's say you get $140,000. And then there's realtor's fees, there's closing costs, and your cash proceeds end up at about $130,000. Okay? This assumes you don't have a loan and you own the home free and clear. Now, if you sell with seller financing first, it's a good chance you can get your full sales price of $150,000. A typical buyer might be able to pay you a $20,000 down payment. Your closing costs will be a little bit lower, so maybe there's $5,000 of closing costs. So you put $15,000, the difference between the down payment and the realtor fees and closing costs, in your pocket on day one, $15,000. But then, in addition, you create a seller finance note for the balance of $130,000. 10 years of principal and interest payments on that loan will add up to be about $104,000. Then at the end of that period, the buyer would pay you a balloon payment for the balance that he hasn't paid off of $111,000. So when you add up the $15,000, the $104,000, and the $111,000, which is all the money you'll receive in over 10 years, you make $230,000. Well, if you look at $230,000 compared to $130,000, that's a 77% higher return than what you would get if you just sold your home for cash. So if you don't need that money when you sell, this is a great way to maximize your ROI on that house over a 10-year or longer period. Okay, so it's a very powerful financial tool to create wealth. So again, why do so many borrowers, why can't they get a mortgage? Why would they consider seller financing? Well, since 2008, when we had the housing crisis, it's gotten much harder to qualify for a loan. Only 63% of Americans own a home. And many of them have credit issues, which is going to make it hard for them to get a mortgage. Or they have low W-2 income. Now, that doesn't mean they have low income. It just means they may be self-employed and a lot of money goes directly into their bank account, but they don't have a W-2 employer that can issue a W-2 on their behalf. Maybe they had a previous foreclosure. That often happens when somebody's young, they get into a house, it's too big, and they get stuck. But 10 years later, they've matured both, personally and financially, and they're perfectly capable of paying for a home. Or maybe they don't have a social security number. You can get a loan without a social security number, but it's quite difficult. So for many of these buyers and borrowers, seller financing is the best solution for them. So why is seller financing not used more often? Well, it's not really well understood. Many realtors are just not knowledgeable about seller financing. And buyers, they don't know where to start. And sellers like yourselves, maybe you think it's risky. Well, oh my gosh, what if they stop paying? What do I do? The house is gone, I lose my money. It's not true. And we'll teach you that, just how well protected you are in our course. And ultimately, I think the reason it's not used more often is no one's created a complete step-by-step process to allow people to go buy and sell with seller financing until now. So what does our course provide? Well, again, we want to provide a step-by-step guide to selling a home without a bank mortgage. We're going to help you find homes and buyers. Where do you go look? How do you communicate with them? Help you understand the numbers. How do you present offers and negotiate? If the buyer is concerned, how do you overcome their objections? How do you close the deal, document the deal? Then how do you manage the loan after the home has been sold? And how do you make sure you get your tax benefits? So we try to give you a complete toolkit, and we give you the opportunity to ask questions. Again, to try to put you in a position where you can be successful selling your home with seller financing. Okay, so what's next? Well, we'd like to make you a special offer. For the first 100 users who go and register with their email at howtosellerfinance.com, we will send you an alert when the next version of our seller finance training for sellers is available, and then you'll be able to go take that training for $99 versus the normal price of $399. Okay? And all we ask is that give us some feedback. Let us know what you think, where we could improve. And as we make improvements to this class, you guys will be able to get any updates we make as we make them for your $99. Okay? So again, we hope to see you at the Seller Finance Center soon.